WolfPunch.
What guy?
Just waiting for whatever dumbass thing you're gonna say.
Was this of all the times we did a sound test and someone farted? It should have been this time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry, I can't fart on command, guys.
Well, that's why you're you and Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that was his first line of dialogue in the film.
Was it a fart?
Do you think
Yeah.
that that's dialogue?
It came out of his body.
Yeah.
I guess.
All
Guys,
right.
what a funny movie.
All right, sound off in the comments section. Does a fart count as dialogue? Imagine if we got someone who could answer that question.
Imagine if we got a comment.
We have.
Yeah, we had it before.
Anyway.
had two.
We're WolfPunch, everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
What else?
I'm Michael.
What else?
That's Yezin.
Which one?
The one that just said what else? And which one?
What else?
Who are you there sitting in the couch chair?
In the couch chair here, it's Kyle.
I'm King Neptune. How do you do?
Nice, Dan.
Is that
All
the
right.
right one? Or
Yes.
the wrong one?
So in the car ride over, Michael kept calling him King Trident. So
All right,
Big fan.
So this week we're talking about The Lighthouse, which at the time of recording isn't really out yet, but it kind of is because we saw it.
This is a red hot take. We literally just saw it. Now we're coming back to talk about it.
yep.
Yeah.
I like that you got that flex in though. Like, yep, we saw it before it was released in our city.
Of course I'm gonna flex.
We saw it before you, thanks to me.
Thanks, Dan.
No problem. You're welcome.
Michael, what did you think of The Lighthouse?
Why do you gotta make me spill my beans?
Okay,
Come on.
there it is.
There's gonna be a lot of bean talk on this one.
There sure is. You've been obsessed with the beans. So, Dan, what is The Lighthouse and why are we talking about it?
We're talking about this movie because it's the new Roger Eggers film, the guy who made The Witch, and this is one of those. I think I posted the article online like fucking 2 years ago, where it's like this movie is just checking off everything that I want to see from a new film. It's from a director where I really like their initial film. It's a folk horror tale shot in black and white on actual film stock. It's like all this is just like, wow, this sounds fucking great. So I was been excited for a long time to see this now, and it's finally out. And we saw it.
Yeah,
we sure
There's
did.
Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe. It's a nice, like, The Witch had a small cast, and then they're like, no, we can go smaller.
Batman versus the Green Goblin on a lighthouse. Who will survive?
Oh yeah, that's why I liked this movie. It makes sense now.
Yes.
Figured it out. Because I still don't know what this movie was about, but I loved it.
That's fine. I cheated. I asked one of the critics tonight what it was about, and he told me. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Your interpretation, but whatever. Anyways.
Is that what he said? It was about Batman versus the
Yeah, he
Green
did.
Goblin?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You got to trust the critics on that one, though.
Mm-hmm.
They are smart. Anyway.
So, what did you guys think of the film?
I liked it a lot. There's me.
Good job, Yezin.
Yeah.
I did it.
I mean,
I don't, I'm not really very negative. I thought this movie was great. Coming off The Witch, which is another great movie, you just get the sense after seeing both of these that this guy really knows how to make horror. Especially in that, right, we'd call this a horror movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd almost call it a comedy, but we'll get into that.
I would not. But the horror in this, like in The Witch, is like very subdued. Like it's not something where like every like you start off and like oh there's a demon somewhere and then by the end like shit is flying all over the place and like.
Well,
I mean,
This is
There is
mainstream
literal
horror.
shit.
right. I guess
dealing
what
with.
I'm saying is it's not mainstream horror. It's very internal. It's very much like the horror very much comes from the characters and the relationship, like the tense and kind of like boiling relationship between them. And that's also something you see in The Witch, right? Where like the relationship between the family and how the family is sort of just like they resent for each other is the horror. And yes, there's maybe something else going on. There's something else in nature, but it's just playing off of what's between the characters.
Yeah. It's a very slow burn and very like psychological and character driven film.
yeah, I think the director really knows how to like just show how people can really be terrible if left to like be like bottled up and close
Isolated.
quarters.
Yeah, isolated.
Yeah,
It's real
isolated
cabin
and-
fever. Is that what they call
Yeah,
it?
yeah, that's the word.
That's
No, that's
Eli
Eli
Roth.
Roth. God,
That's what'd you say?
it's an Eli Roth film.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck you.
One of us had to make that joke.
Yeah.
Fuck you both.
At least we didn't talk about the Cabin Fever remake.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the other thing, I think, obviously, we gotta shout out to Willem Dafoe
Oh yeah.
for playing, like, the best sea captain.
Maybe.
Are you gonna outdo him someday? Count? Is that it?
I heard your impression of that voice in the car. I think you've got a long way to
Yeah,
go.
I got nothing.
Let's
on
hear it. Our listeners deserve to hear it.
Oh God. Why'd you spill your beans? Oh God.
You've gotten better.
I've
Sound
gotten
like
better.
a fucking leprechaun.
Yeah.
Boy, why'd you spill your beans?
You're between a sea captain and the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm Willem Dafoe, basically.
You are Willem Dafoe. But yeah, I mean, there's like, not a spoiler to say it. There's basically two characters in this movie, and it's Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. They both do a great job.
Yeah.
I think Robert Pattinson, maybe his accent. They're like, I don't want
There's
to.
a reason for that, though.
Is there?
We'll get to it in spoil. Well, I mean, it's kind of a spoiler, so I don't want to really get into it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just meant that like his accent felt a little bit inconsistent there at the beginning.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, maybe
Yeah.
it's something I missed. So we'll
Get to it.
Save that for
Anyway.
later.
Because I thought the same thing, and then it made sense, like towards the end of the film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought great performances from both of them.
And that's our review of The Lighthouse. Thanks, guys.
Best I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is
Yeah.
probably. I don't know what else I've liked more than that this year.
I like this movie quite a bit, but I still love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, this is apples to oranges.
Yeah, I
They're
can't
so
even get-
fucking
they're both so-
different.
yeah.
Like,
It's very different, but yeah, this movie hit a lot of check boxes for me. And I know we're avoiding talking about spoilers, but it's like this. Really, it's the way this movie is made that makes it so
God,
fucking
yes.
watchable. I mean, it is a gorgeous movie. It looks so much like an old 30s Universal horror film in so many parts.
the
It's-
movie, or the music especially.
Oh God,
I
yes.
love that, yeah.
And you guys know me. I love my Universal horror, and that was great. And it had that really tight the 1.19 by 1 aspect
Yeah,
ratio.
I
It
love
was
that.
really squared off like a silent film kind of thing, which was distracting at first, but also helped serve the narrative of how closed in these characters are. God, it was just good. It was just a really, really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have to agree with Michael. It was a lot funnier than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Because you don't laugh very much during The Witch.
No, not really.
Yeah.
That's not to say, I think if you were a fan of The Witch, you will be a fan of this. I know, Michael, you didn't care for The Witch.
No,
very
I
much.
liked The Witch.
You
You guys
didn't like
all
it?
Well, you said earlier you thought Yoga Hosers was a much better movie than The Witch.
Yes,
I did not say that.
you basically said that.
No, just because I watched it when I was sick, so I wasn't very enthusiastic whenever I was like, "Hey guys, I watched it." I was just like, "Yeah, it was good. I liked The Witch. It was a great movie."
It wasn't enough. That was one time that Dan Yezin and myself were all in agreement. It's this movie's fucking great.
It is.
And you're like, yeah, it was great. I guess. But no, this is a great, I just love Robert Eggers, and I want to see him do a movie a year. He's just so good.
He's making a Viking historical.
I
piece
know,
next.
yeah.
I'm already excited for that. God damn it.
Same. I love, him visiting, I'm a big fan of folklore of pretty much all kinds. And I love that he, uses that as a springboard to tell, horror stories that are also, very deeply rooted in human drama, and he's just a really, really good filmmaker. Everything looks beautiful. He gets great performances out of actors. There's just very
No,
enthusiastic.
it's really talented. His talent, especially in this film, it's amazing how well he's able to balance the tone of scenes being tense and standoffish, but still fucking funny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a scene where things are already kind of tense between the two characters, and like Robert Pattinson is like painting the side of the lighthouse, and Willem Dafoe is like up above, like slowly lowering him down on this like rope pulley system, and he's like, "Quit fidgeting there, will ya?"
Yeah.
And it keeps slipping, and like it's a hilarious and it's a great scene, and it ends on like a really like intense dramatic beat. Like there's so many like moments like that throughout the entire film that are just fucking great.
Yeah, it's because, I mean, it's inevitably funny because you're watching people go crazy and you're not really sure, like, who's crazier or what. Everything is, like, really elliptical and, which, again, helps keep it, like, very engaging. Like, because it might sound to, like, a broader audience, and this movie isn't for everyone, but, like, the idea of it's going to be two dirty guys in a lighthouse for, like, the full length of a movie. It sounds like that could be boring, and it never is.
Yeah, like the first like half hour, I feel like is just like Robert Pattinson doing chores around like the area and stuff, just walking around the island. Like,
yeah, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm like, look at these craggy shores. Look at him walking around. Seagulls are dicks. This is great.
Yeah. Seagulls are almost like a third character in this movie. It's great. They're hilarious.
Something I've kind of been wanting to bring up for a little while. I do think that even though if you like The Witch, you'll probably like this. I think the audience for this might be a little bit like, I guess this might have a little bit less of a broad appeal than The Witch, even.
I would agree with that. Actually,
just because the construction of this is so like niche, like the pixel aspect ratio and the it being black and white and it being designed to look like a 30s horror, right? Is what you were saying. And also, like, The Witch has, like, 5 characters or 6 or something like that. And this has 2. So it's really just very tense. Like, it's it's basically like a bottle episode of a show. And yet none of this is bad. It's just a little bit more niche. Although, I would say, like, more people should give this a shot, even if it's not, like, necessarily going to be everybody's cup of tea. You don't know unless you try. So this is actually like a movie that I would probably try to recommend to more people than even would actually like it. Just because I want more people to see that, go out and go outside their comfort zone and see this kind of movie.
Yeah, it might not be a movie for like, mom and dad or anything, but Robert Eggers definitely appeals to like horror nerds for sure.
That's what I was going to say. Like, something I noticed with The Witch, honestly, I think this film is probably more honest on Roger Edgar's part, whereas like Robert, my bad, because I know like several people who are huge fans of horror did not like The Witch, similar to like how you're surprised that people did not like Logan. I'm always surprised when people do not like The Witch and they love horror. Well, so I feel like this movie, because it's more niche, it's like, okay, like, this won't get people confused and make them think it's going to be like a modern horror movie.
I mean, to be fair, like...
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but you got to remember, anybody that doesn't like The Witch is a fucking idiot. It doesn't matter how much you like them. They're... I don't know, like, I guess I get what you're saying, like, that this is a more honest movie, but to me, like, The Witch is a little more, it's more linear. And, like, it's funny, because I remember when I saw The Witch in theaters, like, there was all that buzz about it, and, but, I'd never seen anything by this guy before, and I walk in kind of cynical, and I'm like, this movie might not be that fucking good, I'm just gonna watch it. Yeah, I get it. I get what you're doing. And then somewhere along the way, you're like, this is pretty great. So there's almost like a subconscious intimidation when I went and watched The Lighthouse. Where I'm like, but this movie's gonna be smart, and I better be smart with it. And then, I'm just,
I wasn't.
Yeah.
There is something that he does in The Witch, and then he turns up in this, where like a lot of movies, the way that when they are setting the movie like period movies where they're setting them not in the present. Yeah. They'll change up the dialogue a little bit to reflect that era, but not too much, just so that it's not with this. I'm not an expert on whatever
Linguistics.
era, linguistics or whatever era this was,
1890s.
1890s, whenever this is set in. But it feels like he is not like making the dialogue too easy to understand, I guess. Is the word. You guys know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're saying, but
They
I
didn't
think
modernize the dialogue.
You
I
didn't
think
modernize
that,
the
like,
dialogue.
I think the dialogue is much more dense in The Witch. That
Than
like
this?
16. Yeah, oh god, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Again, maybe it's because of the music that I listen to. I
You
don't
old
know.
man.
Maybe I'm just too far away from the Witch.
Well, I would say
remember
there were definitely more times in this movie that I was like, I wasn't sure what they said. Heck, like in the car ride back, I wasn't sure. One of my favorite lines of the whole movie, I wasn't sure what the first half of it was.
I think some of that might be attributed to like just them being kind of grumbly in the line delivery because they're all like grizzled old seaman going crazy.
Yeah, that's also
Yeah.
probably part of it. Like in The Witch,
They enunciate.
they enunciate. They're trying very hard to be understood by each other, and then this they don't care.
They're drunk.
Yeah.
drunk and
And you can just smell them.
Smells like jism.
Yeah.
Lots of jism in this movie, we will say.
Yeah.
Lots, but not enough, right?
Yeah. There was a nice amount of Robert Pattinson's butt, though. I will say.
You
that.
did comment on that on the car ride. You were like, "This movie's great. It's got farts and jism and masturbation and Robert Pattinson's butt."
Well, jism and masturbation are mutually.
Yeah, it's the same fetish.
well, you don't have
Cause
to
and effect,
Yeah.
I would say.
Well, yeah, but you can. Never mind. You don't have to finish anyway. Guys, let's keep it. This is WolfPunch. Let's keep it PG. We have a lot of kids listening, so
Oh, yeah.
That is a terrifying thought.
Yeesh.
It's just when I listen.
Let's clean this up for when Michael listens to it later.
Oh my goodness.
okay. Yeah. Just good movie, guys.
Yeah, we're still like processing. This,
Yeah, we
so
did
apologies.
just watch this. And again, without like getting into specifics, it's kind of hard to just narrow down like what makes this movie so good. Other than what we've already talked about, a lot of like.
Yeah. I really liked like the mystery, but it wasn't like. From what I understood of the plot, it didn't hinge on the mystery, but it helped keep you engaged. Where it's like, who's the crazy one? Like, what's Willem Dafoe doing up in that lighthouse? Like, there was a lot of like things going on for just two people in a lighthouse, and that's great. It's really engaging.
Yes. It did not make the life of a lighthouse keeper as glamorous as an Aquaman,
Yes.
but I think I still want to be one. So that's
You just
good.
want to be called a wiki.
I guess
Yeah,
which one would you want to be? Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe?
Oh, Willem Dafoe for sure. You
What?
kidding me? You want to be able to talk like this all day, like.
And you don't want to do all the work.
And then I don't want to do all the work, and I want to pressure people into drinking
Yeah, that sounds pretty
so that they
good.
can enjoy my company.
No, I do think that like this movie has. It's not like overly literal, right? Like there's a lot of levels. I'm sure it can be read on. Definitely, there's an element of the movie like I feel like about gaslighting, which is kind of fun.
With all the gas lights that they have.
So it's
there.
almost right with all the
Yeah.
gas lights, and it's a lighthouse, and the whole movie, someone is being gaslit,
Yes.
and we'll get more into that in spoilers.
Yeah,
but
I'm not following, but sure.
Really?
Maybe. Once I had things spelled out for me. Come on, man.
All right.
all right. So I thought that was kind of like clever and goofy. But one thing before we get into spoilers, I do. I will say the horror itself was actually very good. You had some shrieks in the movie.
Oh yeah, sound design was a big part of it.
That was just fantastic. Like whenever something, like I don't want to call it jump scares, but the scares in the movie are scary. Like they're like it's like some haunting shit that they have in this movie. Let's put it that way.
Like,
And then also actual shit.
Yes, there is poop in this film.
Poop and pee and farts.
Poop and pee and farts.
There
That's why it's so good.
And,
That's why WolfPunch watched it.
and haunting.
Well, that's what I was telling Kyle on the way here. This is his first stab at a Marvel movie. You know, with he's having a joke a minute. He's auditioning.
Yeah.
Just laugh every couple minutes.
I can't wait until Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and see Peter Quill carry, like, pans of shit. God damn it, Rocket. No, this is going to be... Ew, Drax poops. That'd be horrible.
Oh
Sorry.
You should be.
Back to the Lighthouse. Let's talk about that some more.
No, like, this is one of those films, like, I don't want to bring it back too much, the whole, like, comparison to The Witch or anything, but I feel like it might not hit as much of an audience as, like, say, The Witch. Like, you could comfortably, like, put that movie into the horror category, even if, like, horror is such, like, a broad genre, because a lot of people just go because they enjoy, like, the schlocky violence, carnage, that kind of stuff, and that's absolutely not what The Witch is about, and that's absolutely not what this movie is about either.
Yeah.
So I feel like it wouldn't appeal to, I could see it not appealing to some people that enjoyed The Witch, whereas this, on the other hand, did. Not saying that I think people would be off-put going from that to this.
It's just weird for me to wrap my head around, because, like, that, not to get into spoilers, but, like, that ending, like, visceral. Like, there were things I was like, I felt it, and I was like, I feel like I'm not a big horror movie guy, but I feel like if I'm going to go watch a horror movie, that's something I want to feel. Like, visceral, like, fear and, like...
But I mean, honestly, I think that a part of it is kind of what are you more, like, intrigued by as far as, like, horror nerd fandom? Like, if you gravitate more towards, like, 1600s like witchcraft folklore, then The Witch is pretty far up your alley. And then if you have no interest in, like, seafaring folklore,
I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Jack Sparrow, we got a horror picture for you.
They do mention Davy Jones in this.
They sure do, yeah. You remember him, Michael? He's from SpongeBob.
He had tentacles for a beard.
See, I thought you were going to make, earlier in the car, I sang Long John Silver, #1 super guy.
Yeah, you confused Long John Silver with Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah, I'm all over the place today.
I do have to admit, though, like, I do love this movie, and I think it's fantastic and well crafted and very effective. It never struck me on, like, as an emotional, like, guttural level as, like, scenes of The Witch did, because that movie was just really good at building up, like, this sense of, like, dread around everything that happens. And while, like, this movie is absolutely tense and effective, I never really felt that same level, but that's also probably because it's like you have a whole family that's at stake there, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say the characters in The Witch, for the most part, most of them are more sympathetic.
Yeah.
That is true. I definitely think The Witch is, I wouldn't say a better movie, but I enjoyed this movie more.
Well, I think they're also, I mean, you can still pigeonhole them into horrors. I still think they're two very different kind of movies, and they're not exactly, like, comparable one-to-one, like, in those necessary regards.
It's just, I'm just so happy that this is a good movie, because I get so nervous for directors whenever they have an amazing first movie and then they're just all downhill from there. So I'm so happy for them.
Whenever they Duncan Jones it.
I will say that I agree with Dan that the characters in this movie are not as sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, the Witch had a lot of not sympathetic characters.
Yeah, but you could like get on their level.
Or had a character, 1 or 2 or 4 unsympathetic characters.
1 or 2, 4, 12, I don't know.
No, they're all shit.
It was really just the goat that I felt for.
Who sympathized with those twins? They were creepy as hell.
Yeah. Those twins suck.
They should have just gotten hit with a fucking block of wood.
And then, you know, the mom,
Not too nice.
Yeah, but the dad.
The dad was in Hurricane Heist, so you gotta like him.
Yes, that's true. You have to like any actor that was in Hurricane Heist.
Anyway, but yeah, no, like neither character in this movie is particularly sympathetic.
Yeah,
there are moments. There are times where you sympathize with like Robert Pattinson's character, but not so much.
I'm going to disagree. There are times I feel pretty bad for Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe, but like,
we'll get into that later.
Well, I think that's what's great is like this movie constantly has you guessing. Like it's like you have 2 unreliable narrators.
Yes.
So you're just like, I don't know who's telling the truth anymore.
You know, we're gonna have to get into that because like, I don't know how much this movie actually hinges on the unreliable narrator.
It's not that I wouldn't say that it hinges on it. It's just that like what we're saying now is like, oh, this features pretty much only two characters that aren't very sympathetic, it is important to mention that, like, not knowing how full of shit they are keeps you interested, whether or not you're necessarily sympathetic towards them. And I have no problem rooting for a big ball of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, Joker's the film of the year, right? So...
I don't want to be just like Arthur.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Jesus.
No, it isn't.
We've already admitted that was not our favorite film in this podcast.
But I need to emphasize.
Yeah.
Anyway, how ready are you guys to get to spoilers? Is there any...
Well, maybe just do some parting thoughts and then dive. Well, I just want to say one thing. Just if you haven't seen this movie yet or you're interested or whatnot, this is something that I think is really fucking, like, something you should try to see on the big screen.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeously shot. Like you mentioned before, the sound design is fucking phenomenal. Like the way the music and sound effects, just everything like melds together. I don't know if this was intentional or not, or if I just kind of imagined it myself, but I swear there was like one scene where like Willem Dafoe was like kind of farting, and then like the soundtrack melded into that a little bit too.
I did not notice that.
I swear to God.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
Yeah.
Those are some powerful farts, man.
Yeah, no, like, it's good and it's interesting and it's worth seeing in a fucking dark room where you don't have your goddamn phone out and you're not going to be distracted because, like, oh, they're just fucking talking, I'll wait till it picks up. Like, no, like, this is a movie that I feel like deserves your attention.
Yeah. And this, you know, not to keep harping on it, but, you know, when Martin Scorsese says Marvel movies aren't cinema, like 3 minutes into this movie, I was like, "This is cinema." it is.
No, that's so true. Like, sorry, go on.
No, I mean, like, yeah, that's basically like it has. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that all old movies are great or anything, but I definitely do have like an affinity for a certain era of filmmaking, and it was just really, really, really great to see somebody like do a. This is definitely a very modern movie, but with like an affinity for like folklore, for like certain periods of history that I find fascinating, and then just the filmmaking style felt both contemporary and incredibly classic, and it was amazing. And I'm like I said, like just one day over the weekend, I had like 4 different people ask me about like coordinating going and seeing this movie, and I went for free because I'm a fuckhead. Like. I just hope that they all see it, and I will go see it again, because I'm like, I want everyone to go see this movie. I don't know if they're going to like it, but I know that it's going to be different. It's going to be something that they haven't been watching regularly, and it's worth going and seeing very, very much.
Yeah, you know, we have talked a lot about Martin Scorsese, but like there really is something to that. Like, yeah, this is cinema, and you know. When you watch this movie, it's like, yeah, I agree with Dan that there is like there's real merit to going and seeing this in a theater where the screen is huge, where you're in a dark room, where you're not going to be distracted. And yeah, that isn't, a lot of movies now are not really like that. Where like, yeah, you can see them on the big screen. And with Marvel movies, like, yeah, there's something to like seeing Infinity War opening that night or Endgame opening night, so you can see people like cheer and like, their energy might feed in with, but like at the same time, you can watch those movies like on a small screen on your laptop, and it's like kind of the same experience. With this,
or you can fall asleep in the movie theater and then still do a review about the movie, like you're an expert. So
yeah, like with this, like man, it's really immersive. Like it's like a real experience. The tension, like there's a building of tension throughout the movie, like. Even though we've talked about how much we actually like empathize or root for either of the characters, but there's like a real tension building as you like watch the movie. Like you're always kind of like, you know, I didn't check my phone. I didn't want to see how long had passed. I didn't want to see like how close it was to being over, because there was like, it's like, is this where it's escalating? What's gonna happen now? Like there's like constant like just. You're like barreling towards like a certain conclusion that you know is coming, but like the way you get there, there's like a real, you're sort of caught up in this tension. You're caught up in this like dread of bad things that are going to happen, even though you don't really like either of these people at a certain point. Like there's still like a dread to what is happening.
And like now looking back, like I'm now realizing like the movie does a great job at making the audience, at least me from my experience, like feel like the passage of time or like the lack thereof, because there's a point in the movie where you aren't like, he's only supposed to be there for like what,
4 weeks.
4 weeks, and then it's pretty like, you know, as an audience,
Well, let's not
member,
get
like,
into spoilers.
yeah,
about that.
Yeah, but we will talk about that because that is
yeah,
very interesting.
Yes. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How about now?
Yeah, I mean, this movie is...
I know we wanted to wait as long as we could, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like we've all set our parts. We've given this a shining recommendation. And
Yeah.
I think it's worth your time.
If you love movies, this is a movie that'll remind you why. It's really great.
Now spoilers.
Now spoilers.
For The Lighthouse.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it yet, turn this off, go watch it, and then put this back on. And don't jump back to this point. Re-listen to all of it.
Yeah.
Because we're too lazy to timestamp it.
That's right.
Sorry, guys, I can't fart. Anyway.
Still trying, though. God bless you.
Okay, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, we were talking with Robert Pattinson's accent. So what struck me about that was, and I don't think I'm off on my interpretation of this, is whenever he was really upset or drunk, that's when he kind of like adopted this Boston accent that came out with him. And to me, it seemed like that was him adopting, like, that's actually how he talks and what he acts like. And he created this false persona from when he was at the logging company, where he stole the other guy's identity and basically Don Drapered it over to the Lighthouse. So that's because that bothered the fuck out of me in like the first half hour. I'm like, there's no way they could have made an oversight this glaring in a film like this, where the accent is so fucking inconsistent.
Yeah, and I mean, he has that full-on rant where he's just like, I'm not a co-op. He's just DiCaprio in The Departed. You're like, okay.
I did not get that, but that makes sense.
I assumed the whole time that that's what you were going to say, and I didn't. This is the first thing that I've really seen Robert Pattinson in. He got greased in one of those Harry Potter movies. I watched that, but I've never seen like any of the Twilight movies.
Greased.
Yeah, spoilers for Harry Potter, the one with Robert Pattinson. But yeah, so like he's in that for like 3 seconds.
Harry Potter New Moon.
That can't be. Oh, you're doing a thing. I get it.
Wow. Anyway,
So part of me was just like, is he just not good? And then once you said no, there's a point to that, I was like, oh.
well, plus like with how like everyone knows, well maybe not, but like The Witch, like the director wanted like highly researched how people talked back then and wanted everyone to talk like that. So I feel like that would be glaring oversight in this movie.
Yeah,
you know, all this makes sense.
And I mean, this movie was made with like painstaking details. They built like all of these sets to have like full control over camera movements and everything. So yeah, you're probably right. But I like my way better.
So let's talk about, or I guess we might all have different interpretations of this. So let's talk about passage of time. Who was crazy? Who was not crazy? Who was lying? Who was being honest? Mm-hmm. My interpretation of the movie is actually that the sea captain Willem Dafoe is gaslighting Robert Pattinson's character. He actually is lying to him. He actually is like when it's the next day and it's the day after he was supposed to leave, and then he's like, "Oh, it's been weeks." That's not true. It really is the next day. That's my interpretation. Is that like everything we see is happening.
Now that
or not almost. I'll come back to that actually. Like because and the reason I think that is because later in the movie there's a scene where we actually see Willem Dafoe bust up the lifeboat, and then 5 minutes later he accuses Robert Pattinson of busting up the lifeboat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way that they're doing this. I mean, maybe, but I don't think that they're doing this level of unreliable narrator.
Honestly, like that was my interpretation too. But to play devil's advocate, throughout even the beginning of the movie, the way time passes to the audience, not necessarily the characters, you are watching this movie for like a good 20 minutes before you learn any characters' names. And Robert Pattinson says, Winslow, my name is Winslow. I want you to call me that for my last 2 weeks here. And you're kind of like, oh shit, 2 weeks has passed, you know? And then the next thing you know, it's like, well, ye be leaving tomorrow. And then it's like, oh, okay. So another 2 weeks has passed. So, again, I'm really more on your side with this, but to play devil's advocate, like, from the beginning of the movie, they're displaying to the audience, like, the passage of time is kind of elliptical. Like, breezing through it. People's facial hair still looks fairly the same. Everything is just kind of seeming like the same monotonous day.
You know, I assume that, like, Willem Dafoe shaves, or not, well, Robert Pattinson shaves and Willem Dafoe doesn't. Like, that's just what I assume with the facial hair.
Well, I mean, that was to his point. Like, that's the thing. Like, watching it, I was, like, very aware of, like, oh, he's leaving tomorrow, and this is still pretty early. This is a really short movie. Or like, we got a while to go, and something's going to go crazy.
Which brings me to another point, though, is, like, even though this movie is hard to talk about without spoilers, like, on paper, there is almost nothing surprising about what happens, like, in this plot. Like, you could just...
to a point.
To a point, but it's like...
You can kind of see it coming, right? Like, one of these people is going to kill the other, and it's probably going to be Robert Pattinson that kills.
That's a lot of movies. It's never the what, it's the how. And what the how is amazing.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Yeah. Like, because that's not me criticizing this movie at all, but it's like, on paper, just from, like, the trailer, you're kind of like, oh, well, he's the young kid that doesn't know anything, and he's the craggy old piece of shit. And
you didn't need the trailer for that.
Yeah, you can look at their faces. And then you're like, these two are going to be stranded here. They're going to be at odds with each other. And then again, just as the movie starts going on, like, he won't let him up to the top of the lighthouse. Well, eventually he's going to snap, and this one's going to kill that one and do that thing.
Yeah,
and like, none of that is unpredictable. Yeah. But it's just the way the story is told is incredibly engaging. Yeah. And really, really well done.
Yeah. And top it all off, you told me that you're finally happy that you now know how to have sex with a mermaid.
Yes, I was very happy to learn that.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. Which has like a huge vagina in the middle. Mm-hmm. That was nuts.
Something we didn't learn from the boys.
Or Futurama.
Yeah.
They denied us for so long.
So, how do we feel about some of those scenes? Like, where he sees the mermaid?
The mermaid stuff I didn't have a problem with. I had a problem with the King Neptune stuff.
Had a problem with?
Like, it just seemed like...
It's offensive to portray his deity on the screen.
Even King Trident.
Yes, King Trident. Ariel's father should not be portrayed this way.
No, it was just like, it seemed a little too much, I guess. I don't know why that was like the line my brain drew, but like, whenever I saw like the tentacles moving in the lighthouse, and then like, it was one of those things, like, the mermaid is like, are those real? I don't know. But then whenever Willem Dafoe turned into a giant squid monster, I was like, that's not real. So, like, that kind of just, I don't know, annoyed me,
This is where Michael admits that he is on the fence about the existence of mermaids. But King Neptune, he knows better.
I don't know. I think there was something like... Well, that, like... Definitely when Willem Dafoe turns into King Neptune... Excuse me. Definitely when Willem Dafoe turns into King Neptune, you know that, like, that's not really, like, happening, right? But, like...
Or is it?
That also makes you wonder about, like, the mermaid. Was that real? Because, like, there does seem to be something mystical about this lighthouse and this...
I mean, this one is a little more... Again, I'm not trying to just compare this to The Witch, but it is the same director, and there are some parallels. But, like, The Witch... It's not really a spoiler. The Witch lets you know early on in the movie there's a fucking witch. But like the paranormal, like supernatural shit is in the background. It's still important and it still has an effect. But you also definitely know that it's real. But the major threat is the characters to each other. Yeah. And then this movie, the major threat is still the characters to each other. And the supernatural elements, you're a little bit more like, well, I don't know. Yeah. And I think, again, that's kind of where you said, like, Yezin, that maybe, like, the unreliable narrator isn't super important. But as far as, like, well, what is or isn't real from a supernatural aspect, that's when it is kind of relevant. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree. I do think there's something like almost obvious, like not obviously, but there's something very paranormal about the seagulls.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then the wind immediately changes.
Yeah, when he murders the fuck out of that seagull.
Which was your favorite character in the
Jesus,
film?
yeah.
And the
Played
seagull
by
that,
Daniel
like,
Day-Lewis, actually.
the seagull that like won't get out of his way. Like that.
Yeah.
Birds are assholes sometimes.
Yeah.
All of them.
I love birds. Shut up.
But you know,
It's bad luck to kill a gull.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, there's a very clearly like, for me anyway, my interpretation. Willem Dafoe's character clearly insane. Robert Pattinson's character also kind of unhinged, and he is gaslit throughout the movie into like, because it seems like Willem Dafoe, he just like he wants someone there with him the whole time to like listen to his stories and like
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like every old sea codger, you know?
Yeah.
drink with him, and he just sort of like, I don't know, he just like is keeping him there.
Yeah.
I think that no one was ever supposed to like
Yeah. Well, I think,
come and
Oh, I don't know about that.
no, I see. I kind of think because you gotta think like, oh, like right from the get go, Willem Dafoe wanted Robert Pattinson to drink. I'm assuming he does this several times where he'll hire someone, get him the drink, and things will probably escalate in a similar way, but he'll usually get the better. But
I mean, they still work for the United States Lighthouse establishment.
yeah, but back then, how great are bookkeeping?
The idea that like no one would ever come for them, they would die.
We'll see.
Like
Maybe. I don't know.
like I'm definitely
They got
still-
lobsters.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, maybe someone does come for
maybe
them.
he has
I don't
an
know.
accomplice.
I mean, there really is a horrible storm happening,
Yeah,
and,
that's
he, and he
true.
didn't want him to kill a seagull. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still of the opinion, like, yeah, he's gaslighting him. He's trying to manipulate this kid, and he's a piece of shit, but I still do think that they are doing a job.
But, like,
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson stuff doesn't really start getting, like, he doesn't start getting unhinged until he starts drinking. And the next thing you know, all he's
That's
doing is
not
drinking.
true. He has that dream pretty early on in the movie with the mermaid and the logs.
Yeah.
And
No, yeah,
drowning
he has
in the
some
water.
weird moments.
Well, he has the weird stuff, but I'm saying, like,
And there's that
the
little
tension ramps up.
There's
once
that
they
little
start drinking.
mermaid totem in his
Yeah.
mattress that, you know, maybe Willem Dafoe is an evil Neptune sea worshipper who sacrifices his wards to these things. And he helps these mer spirits get them.
How great was the sound design on the mermaid, like, screech, whatever the fuck that was.
Mm-hmm.
That was
terrifying.
fantastic. I loved
amazing.
It was amazing. There were like so many parts of this movie where I just had a dumb grin on my face.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, everything about the mermaid I think was great.
Yeah.
Whenever it would like show up, I'd be like, this is
cinema.
this is so good.
We swirled the Merlot in our glass.
I think that's like the new WolfPunch motto. This is cinema.
That's how we gauge a movie. Instead of
God.
like recommendations, thumbs up, thumbs down, this is cinema. This, not cinema. No, get out of here, buddy.
What did Francis Ford Coppola say about them?
They're despicable.
Despicable. This is cinema. This is despicable.
Surprisingly loved Despicable Me, though.
Yeah.
Despicable Me.
He was a
This is
producer.
cinema.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
Yeah, like there's two shots in the movie, especially that are burned into my brain of just like this. This is cinema. Like the
You
closing.
say
shot,
it right, Michael.
Like I can't.
This is cinema.
This is I can't.
It sounded like Herman Munster. Sorry, go on.
That fucking last shot with Robert Pattinson, like, and I wonder, like, did he see anything when he's looking when he finally gets to the top of the lighthouse and looks in, and it's just like that insane like laugh. But again, one of my favorite things in movies or any form of like video media with audio, whenever they cut the audio on a very dramatic moment, love it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Because I hate loud noises.
Yeah.
So.
But when he's laughing maniacally and the light shift, the way the light shining in his face, it's just like...
There was a lot of
like,
light shining on people's faces, like, you know, like the shadow, like light and shadow on people's faces, making them look just terrifying.
Yeah,
and
again, that's an old, like, universal horror to, like, that underlighting and shit. And
Willem
it just...
Dafoe looked fucking
he looked amazing.
But amazing.
That, like,
there was a shot where he didn't even look like Willem Dafoe anymore. He just looked like a scary
when
monster.
his eyes are wide and, oh my god, it's so... Like, that kind of lighting, that kind of filmmaking, it just floods my pants with every fluid.
No,
imaginable.
that last
so
shot,
great.
though, it had a real... I haven't even seen the movie, but Willem... Indiana Jones and like the Last Crusade, where like they're being turned into they're like bases are melting.
That's Raiders.
Raiders of the Lost
fucking
Ark.
heck. That's cinema.
What is that? Is Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Raiders is where their faces melt.
What's wrong with the Nazis and they can't look in the Holy Grail or whatever?
That's Raiders of the Lost Ark. They can look you drink from the Holy Grail. It's a cup.
Oh right.
You know what?
I don't know my Indiana Jones. Yeah,
Not cinema.
I don't. But anyway, I think it had that kind of vibe, just like Promethean, like there's this fire that you're not supposed to reach, or whatever.
Yeah, it was so great. I do like the last shot of the film with him laying on the rocks.
And the seagulls eating it.
What did you guys think of that?
But I wish it would have ended with him laughing maniacally.
No.
I was actually very much hoping it didn't.
I loved that last shot. And I could tell, like, you and I for sure both knew that was the last shot because you were a little like, okay, there we go. And I was like, that's how you end the movie.
Yeah.
With the blood and the bird shit on him. And this is cinema.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because it opened with a fart and ends with bird shit. So.
And it also makes sense because he didn't like Willem Dafoe's lobster cooking.
Where there's fart, there's poop.
God,
that's our review.
That's our review.
No, it makes sense because he didn't like Willem Dafoe's lobster cooking, and then he like cursed him to be like by the sea or whatever. I don't know.
He just gets
What
up
do you
and
think of the last shot, Dan?
That was one of the things I was talking to some of the people there that had seen it, and one of the takes on it that actually I find really interesting, but also kind of like kind of torn on the interpretation of, where like basically the whole movie is just purgatory. Like, he's dead, and that's why he's having, like, he has the scene with, like, the associative disorder where they both think their name is Thomas, and they're getting confused. And at one point, I think, like, the bunks that they were staying in just happened to switch. They just switched sides. And so there's all these other, like, small hints that I feel like that's really makes me want to go back and rewatch it to try to view it from that perspective. But, like...
They do switch sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just seems like there's a lot there, and like it would explain the whole sort of like, you know, taunting of Defoe's character towards him with his guilt and everything that he feels for not saving the one person that died in the logging accident, and this is sort of like his escape to try to get away from it and not come to terms with what he's done. And obviously the lighthouse is the big metaphor for like the truth and transcendence and admittal of what actually happened and
shining a
why
light
he's
on
there.
it.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Purgatory.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that your undecided critic voices Ray Romano.
Oh, God. Well, like, it's kind of one of those things, because I don't think any of you guys have seen it, but the movie's Jacob's Ladder does spoilers for a fucking movie that came out 20 years ago starring Tim Robbins, but it does something very similar where it's like, and it was all a dream in purgatory, and it's like, oh, okay. But, like, whereas that movie has, like, a much different setting, tone, and interactions with characters, this movie makes a lot more sense just with how everything is, like, so, like, metaphorically established with the entire concept of the lighthouse and this light that they're obsessed with and how it drives them to the point of, like, this insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. But I don't think that you have to look at it as, like, literally purgatory.
You know, I mean, again, it's an interpretation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
WolfPunch, ending explained.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, the last shot reminded me of, what is that? Is it Prometheus? What's the one that's on the rocks and its livers every day?
That's Prometheus.
Yeah, that's what the last shot made me think of.
Thank God. I thought you were going to reference that movie again today.
When the engineer fights the big tentacle monster, that's exactly what I thought happened.
It did have tentacles.
Yeah.
Same movie.
Same movie.
No, but you know, so what do you guys feel about like the homoerotic aspect of the movie.
It's the best part.
That was there.
Yeah, there's a lot of phallic imagery.
Well, they had to capture the
faces
Tumblr fan base
and,
somehow. So.
Yeah.
I mean, the lighthouse is basically just a giant dick with a light.
Because like I'm wondering how that jives with the purgatory interpretation, right? Because like there's kind of this weird. To me, that reminds me of like the stories of like sailors.
Well, you
like,
could
out at sea for a while. Like eventually, you gotta have sex with something. Like
we can make the argument that if it was purgatory, then both Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are maybe like the Willem Dafoe is not real, and it's like maybe a projection of himself, and there might be some sort of like. I don't know.
It's feeling some self-love.
Self-love. Because he clearly did that several times in the movie. He even got written up for it. Which I do want to say, one of my favorite things in the movie was there was all that tension whenever Robert Pattinson finds the book.
I was going to say when he was masturbating. Is he going to finish? Is he not?
Don't cut away! Don't cut away!
One of my favorite shots in the movie is after he spills the beans, and then he's sort of having the nightmare, and he's at the top of the lighthouse, and he sees himself, and then he like turns around, and then now like he picks himself up, or like he pulls himself up, and then the himself that he pulled up looks back and is being pulled up by Willem Dafoe, who is naked and
the Green Goblin shooting laser eyes at him.
Is the lighthouse. Yeah. Like he's like
that's my second
shining a light. Yep. So that like does kind of lend itself.
Looks a lot like Neptune.
And then when he's staring at him with the light eyes, like they're not on the top of the lighthouse anymore. They're just on the rock, kind of like in the last shot, and he is the lighthouse. So that was also just the way it's shot. It's so like not cheesy, but you know what I mean, like so
cinematic.
Like,
it's so
cinematic.
Well, yeah, but
like,
it's very like
stylized.
It's flat. It's like you're taking on like they're both in profile. Like it's not a very like it's very, almost like a painting.
Yeah, it's very
it's like some like a.
It reminds me of like a David Lynch. Like it reminded me of the newest Twin Peaks a lot. This whole movie.
So people probably actually like this.
Yeah, true.
I'm gonna be honest. I am very proud that it took you this long to reference David Lynch.
Were you waiting?
I was
with black and white
from the theater. I was like, he's gonna bring up fucking Eraserhead or something.
This reminded me a lot of David Lynch, and that's I think part of the reason I really really liked this movie. It's just great. It's great. I love anything Lynchian. But yeah, that shot, it did have a very like flatness to it that I really like. It composed. It was very posed, and I loved it.
Yeah. It was great.
Well,
I think that about says most everything we want to say about it. I mean,
spilled the beans.
We did.
Michael.
But you're really getting a lot of mileage out of
that. He kept asking me to explain it to him in the car.
Well, I didn't.
Why would they say beans? Nobody says that anymore. And I'm like, this is like the 1890s, Michael.
Well, no, I liked that they said it because no one says spill the beans. It's not a thing that you hear much. It was nice. It was like kind of whimsical about it.
Heard in the 1990s, but not now.
Yeah. And then you were also like, and there weren't any beans in the movie.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah. Hey, there's your Italian. What's up with that?
Italian, not sailor.
Everyone else loved the whole like stepbrothers like burying him alive.
Yeah.
That was really good. Yeah.
This reminded you of a lot of Will Ferrell movies.
It did. Oh my god.
Like burying you.
No, I swear, like when I was mentioning it before when you guys were outside, like Willem Dafoe's like whole like big crazy like Neptune rant about stuff when he's just like dropping all these like old timey like sailor like references and names and shit. This sounds like Ron Burgundy like hyped up and monologuing, just stringing words together in like a ridiculous way, but obviously much better.
Yeah, it was maybe my favorite part of the whole movie. It was so great.
Yeah, I guess like we'll close up favorite parts. Let's go.
I think that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I said maniacal laugh at the light at the end was fucking amazing.
I this is kind of a scattershot. I like the one montage where he was like really starting to go crazy with like the whole mermaid and imagery there.
Yeah.
And then this is just a really minor shot, but I just really enjoyed it for some way. When he first mixed like the powder into the drinking water,
Yeah.
and it showed like the white dissolving with that. I love that sort of imagery. I thought that was like a perfect like build up to what will come next.
Yeah, that was pretty
Very
good.
foreboding.
I was pretty amazed at how, like, I don't know, utilitarian the filming was. Like, there was times I'm like, man, they didn't need a lot. Like, there was like whenever he's mixing that, at first, like, you just, it's from, it's like the, like, from below, like, you're looking up at Robert Pattinson. So he could literally just be like, I was like, just thinking like, oh, he could just be like standing around not mixing anything, and they're just adding in sound design of water being mixed. It wasn't until they actually showed that shot. I'm like, oh, no, there is actually water in there.
It's visual storytelling.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That was one of the other things that I loved about the movie is a lot of it felt like 20s and 30s, like silent film to early talkies, like how they would be on like sets where it would like they're like smaller sets, so it only shows you so much, and then like a lot of elements are just implied.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of scenes like that in the movie that just feel like old film sets, even though they've built a lot of this and filmed on locations and stuff. It just looked really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I mentioned mine. I like the Willem Dafoe becomes the lighthouse scene. I like some of those like lighting, like weird lighting on Willem Dafoe, and I like everything with the mermaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have to say, this is purely subjective. I did not like the mermaid shriek. But I fucking loved Robert Pattinson's reaction afterwards, where he just like turns on, he's like, next to like the really good like
Where he
derpy,
becomes
like
Chewbacca.
Yeah, he does like the Chewbacca face. They've used it like a lot of the marketing for the film too, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right.
Yeah. Go see this movie. It's cinema.
Say it right.
It's cinema.
It's cinema.
Cinema.
If you-
Despicable.
If you're one of the people that doesn't understand what Martin Scorsese is saying, watch Infinity War and then go watch this. And
Watch them at the
compare.
same time.
Watch them at the same
Oh
time.
my god!
Find a Marvel movie of the same length. Start them at the same time.
And then just splice scenes in between the two of them and see what happens.
Yeah, have it.
that would actually be kind of
Have them
fucking
keep
great.
switching which screen they're on.
It sounds like a good
If it would just start like you're watching Captain Marvel and then it flickers into the lighthouse every now and
Oh
then.
my god!
When she's being gaslit, it's by Willem Dafoe.
Oh man. Yeah, there's this.
All of her dream memories are the fucking mermaid and floating logs and pots of poop.
No, but I like that this is a movie about like gaslighting, because like so much of our lighting right now is electric, and it's important that like gaslighting is a thing, and we need to really think back up on that. This is
Yeah. The point is, this is cinema.
WolfPunch.